I would like to welcome everybody to this afternoon's Charter Revision Committee meeting. I'm Councilmember Sherry Weiner, and we have in attendance Vice Chair Johnston and Committee Member Cap, Rutherford, Toombs, and Prepty. Did I miss anybody? And Cash. Did I miss anybody? No, I did not. Okay. We do have some public comment, and we have first on the list is Nicole Williams, and I do not see Nicole, so we're going to go ahead and skip up to Trent.
She did say she was going to be late. That's all I know.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Trent Benj. I'm a multimedia specialist, musician, and community advocate from Southeast Nashville. Y'all have heard me speak on the age amendment a lot over the past few months during the charter amendment process, and as we sort of put the capstone on that for our last committee meeting for the next couple of years, I wanted to again share my support for the amendment. As over the past 2 years, we've seen a lot of young folks do a lot of special things in our city, especially after the Covenant shooting, with a lot of young folks coming up here during our annual budget hearings for supporting the varsity spending plan to improve the material conditions of young people in this city. However, young folks my age, between 18 and 25, lack a tool that people above 25 in the city have, which is running for office to effect change through legislation. And this amendment would finally right that discrimination and fix that issue and allow folks my age to actually serve our city and our local government. And so I hope y'all can support the amendment today. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole.
Thank you so much for letting me speak, even though I'm tardy. I'm not going to stand up because I'm a little taller than Trent. Sorry. It's hard to say things much better than Trent says them. Basically, this is a perfect example of why we shouldn't limit council service to people who are 25. We let people join the military when they're 18. Our country trusts those people to fight our battles overseas. The idea that we wouldn't trust those people to serve in a legislative body is a little confusing to me. And I think from what I've seen from the research, we have one of the strictest age limits, particularly of a city our size, to serve on council. I think council is also a great springboard to additional opportunities like running for Congress or running for vice mayor, mayor, other elected offices. And so lowering that age limit, allowing people an easier entry into public service, I think would be fantastic. And then I also just wanted to say, I sent you all an email. If you haven't read it, I would encourage you to read it. One of the points that I made that I feel really strongly about is that the only real opposition to putting this on the ballot that I've heard some people don't want to have 18-year-olds serving on council. I don't really think it should be y'all's decision. I think it should be the voters' decision. But the real opposition that I've heard to putting it on the ballot is that idea of voter fatigue with transit, like wanting transit to be the focus. If that's how you feel, you need to vote down all of the proposed charter amendments. Like, if you're concerned about voter fatigue, this is the easiest and simplest charter amendment to explain. If that's really a concern, I would encourage you to vote no on every amendment. But if that's not a concern, or if you can't find it in your heart to say, okay, I need to be consistent, then I would encourage you to vote yes, particularly on this amendment. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate it. I'm going to take just a moment before we get started of personal privilege. I think it's super important for me to clarify my role as chair and things that have been asked of me that I will not do. I also think it's important for me to share my thanks to every single one of you for the time that you put in, for the effort that you gave, for the thought, the insight. This has not been an easy lift. This has been pretty intense. We've had a lot of things before us, and I am extraordinarily grateful to every one of you for the time you've put in. Now to what was asked of me. It was brought to my attention, I knew it already, that as chair, I could withdraw the legislation on the floor singularly. I could also defer it indefinitely, and I'm not doing that. That's not how I roll. I am not, as the chair of this committee, going to dilute your voices. I am not going to impact or make my will impactful on the voice of this committee because there are 7 of us and it's not a committee of 1. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood that, and just thank you so much for all the hard work that you've put into this. With that, we have several amendments.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. Things that we're going to do at this point, just in terms of how we're going to roll, is we have 3 amendments, and we had withdrawn the amendment from the fire department, and we have these other 3 amendments that we're going to move forward. Once we have done that, we will then move the resolution as amended. Okay? Anybody have anything to add before we get started? Okay, seeing nothing. We're going to go ahead and take what is amendment number 2. Amendment number 1 was the original finance the original amendment, and we are not going to move that forward because the commission preferred the second language that Metro Legal had presented to us. I'm going to go ahead and read for you the entire thing. I think it's important to do that. So I hereby move to amend Charter 1 Amendment to Resolution Number RS 2024-559 as follows. Title of the amendment, Director of Finance Qualifications, Appointment and Vacancy. Number 2, summary of the amendment for the ballot. This amendment would designate an eligible officer within the Department of Finance to perform the duties of the Finance Director for a limited time in the absence of the Finance Director and if the office of Finance Director becomes vacant. Number 3, text of the amendment for the ballot. Section 8.102 of Article 8 of the Charter of Metro Government of Nashville and Davidson County shall be amended as follows. Again, Section 8.102, Director of Finance Qualifications, Appointment and Vacancy. The Director of Finance shall have proven administrative ability and a well-founded reputation in public finance or a record of exceptional performance for at least 5 years as a comptroller or financial head of a large business. The mayor shall appoint the Director of Finance subject to confirmation by a majority of the whole membership of the council. He or she shall serve at the pleasure of the mayor, making the appointment, and until his or her successor is qualified. The director's salary shall be $15,000 per annum, payable semi-monthly. In the absence of the Director of Finance or in the event of a vacancy in his or her office, the mayor shall appoint via communication to the Metro Council an individual who shall perform the duties thereof until the director returns or the vacancy is filled. This individual shall be selected from among the budget officer, chief accountant, and Metropolitan treasurer, and he or she shall serve no more than 90 days prior to confirmation as interim finance director by a majority of the whole membership of the council. Number 4, statement of financial impact of the amendment, none. So, do I hear a motion to accept amendment number 2 to the resolution?
To substitute it for number 1 or to add it to the resolution?
This is going to be a substitute for the original amendment.
But is the motion to make the substitution?
Yes.
Okay, then I move for that.
Second. All right. Anybody voting no? Anybody voting yes? Ha, you're listening. In other words, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Just stay on.
Point of order, don't we need a separate motion to add it to the resolution? I mean, it's
We're
like
not
if
there
we,
yet.
okay.
Yeah, what we'll do is we're going to vote on each one. So we've substituted. Now we're going to vote on it as substituted. Then we'll go to the others, we'll do those, and then we'll vote on it as a group. You are so welcome. Okay, so now I would like to entertain a motion to include this as substituted, and that would be amendment number 2 that we just voted on. Do I hear a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody not voting?
So wait a minute, sorry. Are we voting to approve this particular substitute to put it on the ballot?
To put it in the resolution, and then we will vote on the resolution. If you do not want this in the resolution, then you vote no.
Oh, I see.
If you want this in the resolution, you vote yes.
Gotcha.
So, Director of Finance, amendment number 1. So I'm going to take the vote again now that
Sorry.
we've clarified that. That's okay.
And
That's okay.
I want to be cautious here because we've got charter amendments and then we've got proposed amendments. And so we're now voting on the charter amendment or the proposed amendment.
So we have 3 proposed charter amendments.
I got that.
Okay. We had a substitute for the original charter amendment that we just approved as the substitute. What we're going to do is move now that substitute to be included in the resolution.
Gotcha.
It is our decision now whether we're going to include it in the resolution or not.
Gotcha.
And that's what we're going to do now. It's either a yes or a no vote.
Just can I ask as we go through these, where there are proposed, can you just make sure you're saying charter amendment or proposed amendment?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, once again, all in favor of including this in the resolution as its substitute for the original Amendment 1, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So, we have 4 for and 3 against. Can I borrow that?
Yeah, thanks.
Unprepared. Okay, so now we're going to move to Charter Amendment 3. Charter Amendment 3.
Oh, because 2 was withdrawn.
Right, well, 1 was withdrawn, 2 became the
Gotcha,
substitute.
gotcha.
So this is confusing. Okay,
Very confusing.
I know.
It's all right, we're
I know.
confused.
Hey, it's all about the numbers, guys. Okay, amendment number 2, I'm not even going to go there. Resolution number RS 2024-559, and I hereby move to amend Charter Amendment 3 to Resolution number RS 2024-559 as follows. Title of the amendment, terms, compensation, age, and residence qualification. Summary of the amendment for the ballot. This amendment would remove the requirement that council members attain the age of 25. This amendment would instead require council member at large or district council member to be a qualified voter pursuant to Tennessee state law. Text of the amendment for the ballot. Section 3.02 of Article 3 of the Charter of the Metro Government of Nashville and Davidson County shall be amended as follows. Members of the council shall, Section 3.02, terms, compensation, age, and residence qualification. Members of the council shall serve for a term of 4 years and until their successors are elected and qualified, and shall be compensated at the rate of $300 a month. No person shall be eligible to serve as council member at large or district council member unless he or she shall be a qualified voter pursuant to Tennessee state law at the beginning of his or her term, and unless he or she shall have been a resident of the area of the metropolitan government for a period of 1 year and shall continue to reside therein during his or her period of service. No person shall be eligible to serve as district council member unless he or she shall have been a resident of the district for which elected for a period of 6 months and shall continue to reside therein during his or her period of service. Members of the council shall hold no other elective or appointive office in the metropolitan government or employment by said government except as expressly provided in this charter. And number 4, statement of the financial impact of the amendment, no significant financial impact. And so I will entertain a motion to present Charter Amendment number 3 in the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. Discussion.
Isn't there an amendment to that? An amendment to it from the Charter Revision Commission?
We took care of that in the language, didn't we? Because I don't have
I
that
think
document.
that's what you just read.
That's what I just read, yeah.
So what you just read was on your sheet for the agenda is proposed amendment 3,
Mm-hmm.
which like proposed amendment 2 with charter amendment 1. Proposed amendment 3 will amend charter amendment 3 with the new language as recommended by the
As
Charter
recommended.
Revision Commission.
So that's what I read,
Okay.
what she said.
So
So,
you want to take votes on it like you did for the first
That's
one.
right.
So you'll vote on the proposed amendment 3.
as a substitute,
And then you'll vote on Charter Amendment 3 for inclusion in the resolution, I think is the way you phrased it.
so what we're going to do is just the same thing yet again. Okay, so first of all, as Margaret shared, what I just read is the substitute for the original based on the recommendation by the commission. So, do I hear a motion to accept this as the substitute?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? Great. Any discussion? Mr. Prepty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say first and foremost, I 100% support ensuring and expanding the franchise of people.
We're gonna put stuff before the voters that's gonna be difficult for them to understand, and they're gonna glaze over and maybe not choose not to vote for it. And but we can't let that keep us from putting these important things on the ballot if we feel that they're important. And I think this is an important one for us to have a discussion about. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really love what Councilmember Cash said, and I couldn't say that any better, and would love to have been the one to have put that all out there. So thank you for saying that. I also want to point to the two people who addressed us today as well, and say that I really appreciate what they had to say on this, and I think what they say should carry a lot of weight because of the community that they represent. And I've been working on this for some time, and I would remind the committee that we did, in fact, change the language. We were first looking at language that was based on age specific and calling it 18, and we shot that down and we changed the language to qualified voter. Many other cities have the qualified voter status. Some identify age specific, but we're not looking at doing anything here that is unusual in any way by using qualified voter or by lowering the age in general. It's been pointed out that we do have one of the most stringent age limitations in the country at 25. I think it's important to note that the State House has an age minimum of 21. So if you're an individual who's between the age of 21 and 25, you're eligible to run for the State House, but you're not eligible to run for Metro Council. That's kind of hard to wrap my head around because usually council would be a springboard to the other, not the other way around. Even though, yeah, I know it can technically happen. But I think ultimately we need to leave this to the voters to decide. I trust the voters. I put a lot of faith and trust in the voters. The voters sent us here. And we trusted them to consider us and send us here, and so I trust them. And I think that's really the most important thing, and I think it gets lost a little bit in this conversation because ultimately we as a committee, I'm asking this to be sent to the full floor so that the full council can have a say on it, but ultimately so that the voters can have a say. I'll point to 2015 when the voters had a say on the size of Metro Council, and we've been, of course, dealing with that issue through litigation here recently, which has at least turned to our favor. But the voters then, in 2015, looking at a proposed council size of 27, said no. They were entrusted with that decision then, and they said they wanted to keep the council size at 40. So they made that decision then. They were entrusted to make that decision then. I trust them to make this decision now. However it goes. I'm not saying I know they're going to go one way or another if and when this actually comes to them, but I trust them to make that decision for the future of Nashville, for the future of young people. And I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Cap.
Chair, and my views on this, I think, are well known to the members of this committee, and at the risk of being somewhat repetitive to them, I know a lot of folks are just now tuning into this conversation. And I start by thanking Councilman Rutherford for bringing this. I support lowering the age requirement for service on council, and I do think it's useful to point us back to a couple months ago where we had a proposal to do that. A clean version that substituted the number 25. We debated whether it should be 21 or 18. But that would be a clean and direct way of eliminating the age barrier to council service, which is something I support doing in 2026. And not for nothing, this committee voted that down. That was a clean way of achieving the stated goal of this amendment. What I think is somewhat lost in today's conversation is that this is not solely an age-lowering proposal. This is a proposal, the way it's worded, to substitute a legal term of art that is defined by statute by the General Assembly for our current charter provision, which is an age requirement, but we have said qualified voter. That's a term of art defined by statute by the General Assembly. And at a time when we as a city have been striving valiantly and with a great deal of success to prevent state overreach into our charter across a range of provisions and issues, I have grave misgivings about inviting them right back into the charter to define a term for council eligibility that they can do by statute. They can do that a lot easier than we can amend the charter. What I would support doing is a clean version of this, whatever age level we can agree on, whatever age limit, whether it be 21 or 18. I'm supportive of that effort, as I've repeatedly indicated, but I think we should do it clean. I think we should make it a true age amendment and bring it to the voters in 2026. I think it's timely for 2026. I'm not worried about voters not understanding the proposal. I think they will, and I think we should submit it to the voters and reduce this barrier to council service. I think we should do it in a way that does not invite a ton of mischief directly into our charter.
And I'll finish by saying I couldn't have said it better myself. Mr. Rutherford.
One question on the legal aspect. Isn't the voting age set in the U.S. Constitution? The state can't change that. Is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head, but if we are, the language I believe that is in this charter amendment makes direct reference to state law. And however the state has defined the qualified voter is how.
But the state can't change that law because there was a constitutional amendment in the early 70s during the Vietnam War to lower the voting age from 21 to 18. And the reason for doing that then is that we were sending young men to war who didn't have the ability to vote for the people who were sending them. That's in the U.S. Constitution. So we're talking about the state being able to change this. They cannot change this.
If I, Chair, may I?
Yes.
So, yes, I agree they can't, by the terms of the federal constitution, change the age aspect of that, but there are lots of other aspects of qualified voter, and at a time when we have a national presidential ticket proposing to limit the franchise in really disturbing and profound ways, that is something that's very much part of our political situation now, and I think there are many ways to limit the franchise. Some of those ways are forbidden by the federal constitution, but not all of them. I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but there are ways that the franchise could be limited by state statute, and I think we should exercise our responsibility in guarding against those.
Are we still on the vote to substitute the language?
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
But it's not
Simple
language,
one-word
it's
answer.
formatting.
It's for, okay, but
This is nothing more than
just
determining what it looks
preemptive
like.
discussion?
So, any other comments? We'll go ahead and we'll take a vote. All in favor of substituting with corrected format, item number amendment 3 to the resolution, please raise your hand. We're going to do it that way. Okay.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
This is
Yeah.
to substitute the language,
So
not the
just for the-
language, but substitute the format
Formatting.
into
Yeah.
Then we vote on
the resolution. All in favor?
okay, like format.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Okay, we have opposed, 2 opposed. Anyone not voting? No. And so that will be included as the substitute. And then we will vote on the amendment. Hang on a minute, as substituted. Okay, now we're gonna vote to include it. Ready? Is there
There-
any,
there
I need
further
to see a
discussion?
motion. Well, no, I need to see a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, everybody know what we're voting on. We're voting to include the substituted motion in the resolution. Right? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. 2 in favor, all opposed. 5 opposed. Any not voting, the answer would be no, and so it is 2 for and 5 against. Alrighty. We will now move to amendment number 4. Okay. This is substituted, so we're going to go through the substitution first. It's substituted for format only.
No, it's not.
No.
No,
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Proposed
bad.
amendment 4.
Yes,
Probably ought
I
to say
apologize.
proposed charter amendment 4. There is no, this does not do any amending of any other amendment. It is just a straight for inclusion in the resolution.
And I apologize. Okay, so I hereby move to amend Resolution 2024-559 by adding the following proposed additional amendment to the Charter of Metro Government of Nashville and Davidson County, following amendment number 3. Number 1 would be title of the amendment, regular meetings, adjourned meetings, and special meetings. Number 2 would be summary of the amendment for the ballot. This amendment provides that no regular meeting of the Metropolitan Council may be held in the month of September. Special or adjourned meetings of the Metropolitan Council could still be held in September. Number 3, text of the amendment for the ballot. Section 3.04 of Article 3 of the Charter of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County shall be amended as follows. Section 3.04, regular meetings, adjourned meetings, and special meetings. The council shall hold regular meetings only on the first and third Tuesday of each month and may hold an adjourned meeting of a regular meeting on any weekday or hour it may fix. However, no regular meeting of the council shall be held during the month of September. At an adjourned meeting, the council may transact any business which it might transact at a regular meeting. Special meetings of the council may be held when called by the mayor or vice mayor and shall be called by either official when the public welfare requires it or when requested in writing by a majority 21 of the members of the council. At least 48 hours written notice shall be given for any special meeting stating the object or objects thereof, and the business of such meeting shall be restricted to the objects so stated. All meetings of the council shall be open to the public and shall be held in the Metropolitan Building unless by reasons of casualty a different meeting place shall be selected with public announcement thereof. And number 4, statement of the financial impact of the amendment is none. So we're going to go ahead and open the floor. I need to hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All righty, and we are going to now open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Tibbs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as the language says, this is an opportunity to not have any regularly scheduled meetings in September. It doesn't prevent the transaction of business. If there's a need to meet, we can still meet as a council. It doesn't prevent constituents from reaching out to their council member. It doesn't prevent council members from continuing to have their community meetings, which I would still have my monthly community meeting, as well as I know a lot of other council members. We would still be available to constituents. I've heard from some about, well, you knew what you were getting into when you became a council member. I don't think that's exactly true. However, even knowing what we know now, I think most, if not all of us, would run again. However, it doesn't make you any less of a public servant to take a breather. You don't have to work yourself into the ground. You can, attempt to have balance. It reminds me of, as a working mom, some folks will guilt moms that if you're not, on the verge of a mental health breakdown, you're not doing the job right, and that's just absolutely not true. We already have this scheduled during an election year where we take the month of September off because of the runoffs. And so this is not a major change to how we do business as a city. It doesn't mean that we will work less. If you're just attending council meetings as a council member, I don't think there's anybody on council who's doing that, but you're not doing the job right if that's all you're doing. Again, monthly meetings, newsletters, attending neighborhood association meetings, attending events, sitting on panels, visiting schools. There's still a plethora of things that we do as council members. It's not just limited to these meetings. I think taking things like not having to worry about filing legislation for a month, not having to worry about getting amendments in on time for a month will give council members some sort of mental health break so they can take care of all the other duties that they have as council members, as family members, as friends, and whatever. So I think that if we're going to move amendments to the charter this year, I think that this is an appropriate amendment to add to the ballot.
Thank you so much. Is there any other comment, discussion? Mr. Cash?
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but we discussed this amendment or something very similar in the process over the last number of months, and we voted it down. Is that correct, or is it substantial? Is it different in any tangible way?
No?
No.
And it would take effect, it wouldn't be like next term, it would take effect in 2025 if it was on there and passed. And help me understand what you said about 48 hours. There was something in the third part about 48 hours.
I'll reread it.
Is that notification of a public meeting?
At least 48 hours written notice shall be given for any special meeting stating the object or objects thereof, and the business of such meeting shall be restricted to the objects so stated.
And that follows
That's not new.
Tennessee open
That's
meeting.
already
That's not
in
new.
the charter.
That's not new.
I'm sorry?
That's
not
the
new
way it's always
language.
been.
Yeah, okay,
That's
gotcha.
not new wording. Anybody else? Mr. Perpetti?
I would just say, I appreciate my colleague Chair Toombs for bringing this up, because one of the things that I think is going to be really, for me, that is really important is making sure that we are consistently and continuing to be centered on the communities that we serve, making sure that we have adequate opportunities to do that. Because for a lot of people, myself included, still work a full-time, very demanding day job, and I think being able to, like Chair Toombs said, being able to attend those community meetings that you're holding yourself, attending neighborhood association meetings, just having that opportunity to be more embedded in the community in a lower stakes environment, I think really is beneficial, not only just to the folks who are serving on council, but also to the people that we serve as well. And so I fully support any opportunity that, or anything that gives us the opportunity to be even more ingrained in the community than we already are. And so for that reason, I'm supporting this amendment.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will go ahead with the vote. All in favor of moving the proposed amendment 4 to the resolution? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 2 for, all opposed. We have 5 opposed. There's no one not voting, and so we will not be including that. Now, we are going to be moving the resolution as substituted and then amended. So, we're going to be including, and I'm going to let...
It's just as amended.
Yeah, as amended. But I'm going to go ahead and let you just give a brief, quick rundown on everything that is now included for the greatest clarity coming from you and Hannah.
The resolution will have attached to it the amendments, if approved on the floor, the resolution would have attached to it the amendments that are also approved on the floor. What you're doing here today are making recommendations to the full council. So all of these votes will be reported to the council specifically for each one of the amendments as amended. So if what you would be voting for now is the resolution with the amendments as you have just approved them.
Everybody understands? Anybody have any questions? I need to hear a motion to move the resolution forward as amended.
Just a point of clarification, if I may.
Absolutely.
The amendments that we have heard, well, basically what goes to the floor is all of these amendments, no matter the vote, right?
Correct.
Okay, just verifying that.
I move an indefinite deferral of the resolution.
indefinite deferral or deferral to points?
So I think an indefinite deferral is what I move, and if I may have make a brief explanation.
Sure.
If we defer to a date certain, we're gonna burn one of our deferrals in 2026. So, there's limits to how many times you can defer. And so an indefinite deferral would enable this to be brought back any time, even late 2025. If we defer to a date certain, if the committee favors that, I would support it. But if, say, we defer to the first meeting in January 2026, the problem with that is that we burn a deferral if we need one for whatever reason as we're considering this. But I think the amendments that did not get our recommendation today, I support pursuing both of them in 2026. I think we're not going to lose the work of this committee. I think we've done a lot of work, and much of that work has been developed in this committee. This is by far the most fun committee that I've been on. I go home from these meetings and I say we had real discussions in committee. It was fantastic. So I don't want to lose the work of this committee, and I do think an indefinite deferral lets us bring anything back without burning a deferral. But if the weight of the committee is in favor of a different type of deferral, I won't really oppose that. But my motion is for an indefinite deferral of the entire resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, hold on. So, an indefinite deferral, if someone was to bring this back in whatever the rules are now, because we've changed 60, 90 days, whatever it is, it's a new resolution where the deferral numbers reset, correct?
The deferral, so right now, the way the rules are written, once you get to deferral number 4, that creates an automatic indefinite deferral. So if you were to indefinitely defer today and then you start deferring it again down the road, I don't think that those new deferrals will add to any of the previous deferrals before an indefinite deferral.
So resetting, so that argument is not correct?
If you were to do a deferral to a date certain in whatever 2026, then this would be the third second deferral. So then you would have 2 more deferrals left before you got to the indefinite deferral. Does that make sense? So right now, if you were to do a deferral to a date certain, you would have 2 deferrals to a date certain under your belt.
What's the deadline to get onto the ballot?
August 20th.
August 20th is the deadline to get on.
What's the date of the next meeting?
August 20th.
Okay, so if we defer for one meeting,
Yes.
technically we could vote it in that day, on the 20th?
Yes.
I think the deadline's the 20th. I think the last
The deadline
time
for
that the
us
council
to
can-
approve something
can
to go
approve
on
it
the
is the
November
20th.
ballot is August 20th.
I think there's a few days to get
Which is
it
the
to
next
Election
meeting.
Commission.
Very few.
Yeah,
Which
like
is
a couple
It's
the
the
next-
next meeting.
Okay,
We set the schedule so that you would have another deferral, a 1 meeting deferral built in before you.
Okay.
You could entertain a 1 meeting deferral at this meeting.
okay.
Is there any second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so now we've got the floor open for discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sure, Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah, I'm absolutely opposed to an indefinite deferral. I think we need to give the full council the opportunity to hear these things, and the full council can indefinitely defer it. That may be the will of the body. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the whole body, but I want the whole body to have the opportunity to speak on it. And so I think an indefinite deferral here would be a grave injustice to our fellow colleagues on the floor, and also to all of the work and everybody that's involved in all of this, and to the Charter Revision Commission itself, who also heard all of this and worked on this. I just think that's wrong-sided to do that, and I'm opposed.
Any other comments? Mr. Prepty?
I'll generally agree. I think that this is something that the whole of the body should be able to weigh in on, and I could very well change my vote by the time that we get onto the floor. But at least at this point, I do think that it is appropriate for us to, at this juncture, bring it to the full body on the floor.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? All righty, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of an indefinite deferral, please raise your hand. 1. I'll help you here. 2. And opposed? 3.
Wait,
Okay, are you? Yes
I'm
or
in
no?
favor of the indefinite deferral.
Okay, so that's 3. Anybody else raising their hand on the indefinite deferral? Okay, now we're going to go to no. All opposed to the indefinite deferral? Okay. Anyone not voting? All right, so we have 3 opposed, we have 3 in favor, and we have 1 not voting. Okay, so the indefinite deferral fails. And we will now move to the vote again, and this time we will vote on whether we are going to approve and move to the floor RS 2024-559 with the amendments. Do I hear a motion? Is there a second? Okay, having been moved and seconded, we are now on discussion. Is there any discussion?
If I could just have
Absolutely.
a
Mr.
point of
Prenti.
clarification. The amendments that were voted down in committee are still able to be brought forward on the floor before the entirety of
It
the
all
body.
starts over on the floor.
Okay,
Right.
that's, just wanted to get that clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, in committee reports, I'll share the vote. Anybody else have any other comments, questions before we vote? Okay. Seeing none, let's go ahead, and all in favor of moving this to the floor, please raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? 4, okay, so we are 3 for, 4 against, anyone not voting? Apologize for missing that one, okay. So we are 3 for, 4 against. 4, so. Alrighty. We are now, if nobody has any other comments, we are adjourned. Thank you so much for all your
Keep it.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, because we'll be working on stuff, and I sit beside you, so we'll get it back at the end.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Okay, we'll run off with it.